Hello, good evening, and welcome. I feel like Sydney saying that. I think we are live. I don't know. I think we are. And I think if you want to say something to me, you have to type it in somewhere. If anybody knows, let me know where you type it in. Not that I'm going to be typing anything to myself. So here we are, live in the very heart of Lard Island. This is the desk where the business of printing out labels in order to stuff envelopes happens, as does laying out documents for publication and blah, 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 blah. But anyway, hi. It's kind of an impromptu session tonight, and why not? Largely because I didn't think I was going to find it this easy to get it to work, but apparently I can. And I've also drunk rather more than I should in order to do anything like this. But anyway, bollocks, let's do it. Right, apparently, Storm of Steel, there's a chat box on the right-hand side of the screen. Now that I can see that, but I'm thinking about where do you guys type in what you're doing. I thought it might be just a nice idea to have a bit of a chat. Seconds away, round 2, Red Mist, well done. Ding, ding. Back again with another 40, yeah, absolutely. And a bigger glass this time. We've gone for the full pint. Yeah, it's getting a bit beardy, isn't it? I know. But and not even tidied. In fact, I always say I never grow a beard. I just can't be bothered to shave. Good evening, Richard Taylor. Good evening. Nice to. Hello, Tamsin. Lovely to see you. To see you. Nice. Gosh, seems a long time since we last had a conversation at Partisan. How the world has changed. Cascadian. Excited for infamy. Heard you were working on Dacians. Well, how topical can you get? That's how much I'm working on them. Look, got my shield transfers, and that's my box of Dacians. So, what are the glass trophies behind you? Right. Partisan, best hairdo, War Games Illustrated, best game 2017, best game 2018, best new rules, some trophies from Crisis in Antwerp, and a lot of mugs from a long time ago in another world on another planet. Good evening, Nick. Hello, Nick Meredith. Nice to see you. Paul, hello, mate. Long time no see. I'm really, really sorry that the timing has meant that we haven't been able to get infamy out for you, but it's always kind of, you've always been there in the background prodding away without, just dropping subtle hints. And so thank you very much for that, because it got me in the end. What are the awards you're most proud of? I think 100-yard swimming is, hold on, I'll show you if I find it. I can't find it. The Historical Miniatures Gaming Society in the United States of America awarded me their Legion of Honor. And despite the fact I can't spell honor properly, I have to say that I was extraordinarily flattered to receive that, because it is something that Don Featherstone had got, and in many ways I found it quite laughable that I was being given the kind of award that he got. So, and the fact that it was, in America, was extraordinarily flattering, because people have this idea that Lardy Games are very Anglo-centric, And I don't think they are. I think we develop games that are enjoyed by people all over the planet, and I think that they are possibly more avant-garde, for example, rather than specific to one particular nationality. So I was really, really moved to be given that award by the HMGS in the United States of America. It was, well, moving. There we go. Must be the hub of Lard. It is actually, yeah, it's a fucking mess. And I'm glad you can't see the rest of the desk. Oh, I'm also glad I didn't check child friendly. So, I think this could work. I mean, I don't know. Am I coming through loud and clear? Does this look fairly normal? I see that the Dow has tumbled 622 points. I'm not sure if that's because of my appearance here tonight. Hopefully not. Maybe the London Stock Exchange has rallied by a similar amount, in which case I think I can take full responsibility. I doubt it. Right, good. Right, what should we talk about? I mean, this is really a case of let's see how it works. This is echoey, right? We're a bit echoey, Tamsin. Hello, 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 hello. Rules mechanics, right? All right, go on then. I'm going to ask what everybody wants to know. Do we have a release date yet for me? No, we don't really. Not only because of lockdown, which of course is a major issue, but because it's still got to be laid out. There's a few bits and pieces that I'm working on. I don't know if you can see this. I converted. Ooh. You can't. I'll put it against a black background. So there you go. You got some Caesarean Romans with a battering ram. So actually, having and Paul made this point earlier. Hopefully, it'll be better because of the weight. This has really given me an opportunity to think. Hold on. What about things like minor siege warfare? So we're talking about people attacking barbarians, attacking a Roman marching camp, Romans attacking barbarian, fortified towns, villages, and it's just an opportunity to really develop some rules a little bit further than I would originally have intended to be in the main set. So in many ways, I see it as a positive thing. But in terms of timing, who knows? I mean, I had a chat with the printer today, and they are still working. We've just had a restock. I'm picking them up on Tuesday. I have a couple of sets of rules. Just got another couple of thousand sets of rules coming in as just a top up on Tuesday. So it's good to know they're working. But what I will say is, if this carries on much longer into June, I'm going to publish and be damned, because I'm not waiting forever, because it's not fair on you guys. And I'm actually really excited about going on to develop the Punic Wars, the Greeks, the North Africans, Roman civil wars, and I think that at the moment I'm avoiding reading my copy of Livy and things like that, and painting up Carthaginian armies, because I don't want to be diverted. I want to focus on getting Rome versus the barbarians bit right first, and once we've done that, then once that's published, then I can go out and develop the next phase of the rules. So hopefully that's an answer, even if it is a not particularly fulfilling one. Right. Hello, Nerd Shack. When is the Arnhem stuff coming out? Well, Arnhem, we were originally looking at, hold on a minute, a quick slurp. We were originally looking at doing Arnhem as one big supplement, and then we realised it was just far too colossal. So, well, Nick is doing, because it's his baby, not mine. I mean, obviously he and I went out there together a few times, and we've done quite a bit of the battlefield touring together. But it's very much his baby. I've really only been responsible for the set craft campaign section, but it's going to be released as a number of pint-sized campaigns with a mechanism to tie them all together. And we felt that actually was much more sensible than doing the whole thing, because let's be honest, I've got all the forces needed because it's my job to have all the forces needed. But you guys probably going to go, oh, I want to do the British Paras, or oh, I want to do 30 Corps, or oh, I want to do, whatever, the German Defender or German counterattacks. So we decided that we needed a mechanism which would allow us to present each one as a pint-sized campaign, but with, or at least a chapter within a bigger story, and then a mechanism to tie that together. So Nick is working on that. He is telling me today that he's probably got the first part of that nearly ready. It's just a case of me looking at layout and so on and so forth. But I think it would be nice to get 2 or 3 ready to release all at once, and making sure that mechanism works for tying it all together, which it should do because we've thought about it enough. Tamsin, you're right. Far East is really important to me. At this moment in time, I'm having to focus on some other stuff. So, for example, today I've been editing a scenario supplement for General d'Armée, because PDFs are don't need to go to the printers. So I've been working on a General d'Armée supplement for the Victoria campaign, which I've really enjoyed. In fact, it's got me stimulated to do some stuff there with sharp practice. But the Far East is something that's going to happen as soon as we're out of lockdown. Really, all it needs is the layout to be finished off, and that is a mechanical rather than a creative process. So fingers crossed. I mean, we want to get that right. I mean, it's the work that we've done on that with Len down in Australia, former commander of the Australian Army Jungle Warfare School, and a man who is immensely knowledgeable about that theatre in the Second World War. Has been a real privilege to work with him, and I'm slightly embarrassed that we haven't got it produced yet, but that's simply been because of the lockdown. Jeremy in Northern Ireland. Hi, Jeremy. Nice to hear from you, and I hope to come over and have a game with you guys soon. In fact, I've definitely got to go to Beasts of War and play Infamy with them, so hopefully when I'm over there we'll get a chance. Duck's Companion scenarios are being play tested at the moment. I believe so. Talking to Mike Whitaker, he is like everything really, we're on like so many projects. You find yourself on the 5-meter line and trying just to get the ball over the try line. It's the last 5 meters that are often the hardest. What's going on, says Nick Meredith, apart from I'm not missing anybody out, I hope. Nick is asking, we're getting the Lard TVs on that. I'm enjoying it. There's not much here about there. Well, of course, Nick and I have been playing the Jean Bleu Gap, which is we've had to stop because of social distancing. To be honest with you, social distancing to get as far away from Nick as possible is not a difficult thing to do. So I'm kind of enjoying that gap. But there's that old thing, isn't there, really? What do we do? Do we focus on providing lots of bits of different things, or do we try and focus on one thing? And at the moment, I think a lot of questions are coming about infamy, and so I'm focusing on doing that. I'm very keen to be doing some build stuff, for example, and painting stuff. I've got the railway station that we did, the Sarissa railway station that we did, is ready to paint, and I'm keen to film that, but we'll see how it goes. Got my paras ready, says Hearn the Hunter. I don't know what you mean. Leslie Baileyton, I think you'll find that we June for general stuff. Right. Okay, well, interesting. Well, I think, you might be right. We might find it will be June for general stuff. There's a number of issues there, really. that I've got two daughters in their 20s. Both of them have come home because of the situation. One of them's working from home, and the other was on her grand world tour to sort of New Zealand, Australia, the Pacific, and had to come back. But I think it's more likely that they're going to be let out first before people of my age are. And to be really honest with you, I used to be an extraordinarily heavy smoker, about 80 to 100 a day. And I don't think my lungs are worth risking. I've got so many rule sets I want to write. I'm probably going to stay in isolation a bit longer than I need to. So we'll see about that. Hohenstaufen and Frundsberg, right, are almost finished. Looking forward to it. Good. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Sorry. Yes, sorry. It's you in Bavaria. Grüß Gott and all that, as you lot say down there, or used to. Well, we won't mention other things, but yeah. Right. Do you play Fortnite? Says Sugma Deek. No, I've never heard of Fortnite, although if I did, I might play it every 2 weeks. Will the Fari supplement cover Malay? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Cheeky monkey, says Sugma Deek. Well, there you go. Good evening, eccentric man in St. Evenage. Inspired by your stuff, mate, I've painted some fences today. Not the 3D printed fences that you did, which I did paint a couple of weeks ago and use your recipe for. But always enjoy your channel. Always good fun. Are you planning a trip to research the Far East supplement? Gary, no. I am hoping to get out to Australia. Well, I was hoping to get out to Australia next year because there was a convention being organised. Excuse me a moment. Just shows the importance of logistics, doesn't it? You need supplies to keep you going. There was a convention being organised in Melbourne next year, which I was invited to as some kind of comedy guest. And I said I would go out there. And funnily enough, if I hadn't said that, I would have probably been out there in the early part of this year because my daughter went down to New Zealand and then Australia, my younger daughter, on the sort of backpacking thing. But because that was sort of penciled in, I didn't book to do that. So if that hadn't been on the cards, I would have liked to have been at CanCon this year. I am really, really hoping to get to CanCon. I'm due to go to Historicon next summer. So I would hope to get to CanCon the following, it's January, isn't it? To get there for January. Very keen to do that. I've got a lot of family in New Zealand. In fact, I've got more family in New Zealand now than I've got in the UK. So it would be good to make the trip. Hernan, to excuse the typo as well. No worries, old chap. Excuse the slurring. Good evening, Simon. Well, Simon Campbell-Smith. There is a typo in there, but a very good evening to you. And welcome to the big Lard house. Are there any periods that you're interested in and not commercially viable? Yes, Captain Flack, Super Space Detective. Yes, my favourite war. It's a bit like saying my favourite plague. My favourite war is one of the wars that I'm most interested in is War of 1866 between Prussia and Austria. You could create a set of rules for 1859, 1866, 1870, 71, which incorporated the whole thing. But I think there are so many different nuances that it would be better to treat them separately. And in fact, there's a chap in America who's done that, whose name at the moment has gone from my head, and done a fabulous job with the rules. I've not played the rules, but I mean they are a thing of beauty, and in fact they're a research document in terms of the information that's in there. I'm extraordinarily interested in infantry tactics and the way infantry tactics develop. When I was 16 years old, I was introduced to the concept of basic infantry training, and my dog wants me. Oh no, it's okay. Somebody's letting me. I was introduced to the idea of the way infantry tactics work. Before that, reading comics, you think it's bang, 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 you're dead. But then you understand. I started to understand the concept of, a base of fire and manoeuvring off that, and so on and so forth. And it was a Damascenean experience for me, and which is a bit sad, really. But I found it tremendously interesting. And ever since then, I've been really interested in how general infantry tactics work. And that's why I tend to focus on games at a lower level, because I'm really interested to know what happens at grassroots. Maybe if I'd ever been a general, I'd have been interested to know what happens at the Duke of Wellington level, but I didn't do that. So for me, the interest is very much down at the bottom. And I can't remember the question. However, will you do any musical videos using your bass? No, I won't. I'm terrible. Really am terrible. Most periods that I'm interested in are commercially non-viable, is the honest answer to that. It's a terrible indictment of the fact that we want full colour rules. That means that you can no longer get rule sets that focus on a very tight and specific period of history, which you used to get all the time. I remember going to Salute in about 1988 and picking up the set of rules for the Franco-Austrian War of 1859 for £1.50. And they were not shoddy. They were fine. But the world has turned, so we'll never go back to it. Right. Red Mist. Yeah, that was a good scenario. Fat Boy did that, and I actually ran it down at Southampton. It was a great, fun scenario. It was really good. We had two very, very different games. Do you play? I love the idea that people, because I own a bass guitar and used to play a bass guitar, the very idea that I can now play it is quite hilarious, actually. The only time I used to do so was when I got very, very drunk, and then I'd get it out and play it. And however, I bought a new pair of spectacles that cost me £400, and in playing the bass, I trod on them and smashed them after one day. So I've kind of stopped playing the bass since then. Oh, shit, anyway. Scott, thank you, Mr. Quass. Right, Monkey, good evening from Roy Orbison, the big O, maybe Seamus Schlander. Nice to see you on board, James. What beer is that? It's actually a French beer. I'll show you if you want. Hold on. I got extraordinarily upset about the pubs being shut, so I bought a beer machine where you literally pull a pint. It's got a chiller, and this is Pelforth, which is French, blonde, fraîche, et savoureuse, which means it's actually pretty good, to be honest with you. I bought 70 gallons of beer, which seemed excessive at the time, but not that excessive apparently. I need to order some more, but but it's in a Biera Moretti glass, which was the first beer I bought from them, which was very nice. Right, okay. Penguin Land. The downside of this lockdown is having my wife and daughter working from home, and now lost my gaming table, which has become a sewing craft area, says the eccentric man. I hear what you're saying. I mean, one of the reasons that we're not making quite so many videos is I've got a house full of bloody people, whereas normally my wife and I just reached the point where we were empty nesters, and then the little shits came back. And they make so much bloody noise. So getting videos is quite difficult. So I'm trying to sort of make them at 6 o'clock in the morning before the lazy little shits get up. Did you see the history dancing pop plant? Did you hear the history forum of Boar? No, I didn't. Will you be going back to that period? No. Well, going back to it personally to read about it, yes. It's a very interesting period. Is it this is going back to the commercially viable thing. It's about as commercially viable as trying to sell botulism. So no. Are there any supplements planned for General Darmay? Peninsula War would be of interest. Well, little legions, you'll be glad to know that today I've been doing the editing on a Victoria campaign supplement, 6 scenarios for General Darmay, and very good it is too. I really enjoyed the history lesson that I've had from it, which is good. Ghoul infamy video coming soon. Yes, Eric, the Ghoul infamy video is coming soon when I can shut my bleeding offspring up so I can have some time to film it. When are the War of Jenkins' Ear coming out? It's not. Show us the dog. Bring on the wall. Don't know what that means. Do you mean Bruce Feigl? I do mean Bruce Feigl. Great respect for the guy. I mean, the work that he's put into those rules, and they are effectively a history lesson as well as a set of rules. And his terrain is something quite wondrous to behold. Right. Do you ever feel you don't do a period properly because you're off to the next interesting period? Not blaming you, as that describes my gaming, but not doing all the cop theatres, for example. Well, Tony S., no, because we are doing all the cop theatres. It just takes a bit of time. What I'm not going to do is shell them out like peas and do a superficial job. For example, the Far East has taken an awful lot of time and research. And understandably, I mean, to be honest with you, when we started on it, I thought, Far East, yeah, what you got? You got British sphere of influence, American sphere of influence. Actually, you've got Malaya, which is different to Burma, which is different to Imphal and Kohima and the Indian border, and then that again is different to Bataan, and it's different again to the island hopping campaign, and so it goes on. And so it has taken an awful lot of research to do that. I mean, had we done the Mediterranean campaign, North Africa, it's a very, very tight period of time and a very, very tight period of geography. Doing Far East when we did has actually been a colossal project, but there's no way I was going to turn down the offer from Len because of his knowledge of jungle warfare and his knowledge of the period. So we went that way. And I don't feel the need to be apologetic about taking time to get something right, because to be honest with you, it's very easy to produce stuff that is utter fucking shite, and I don't want to do it. I want to make it good, and therefore I'm prepared to take time. Didn't say that. You misheard me. Right. How do you decide on a particular mechanic for rules, such as how many dice to roll for firing in a different period, given the inaccuracy of older weapons? Oh, bloody hell, that's... Right. Describe the history of the world. I'm getting to the point now where the questions are scrolling off the screen, so we might be a bit buggered. But I will answer that question in detail. How do you decide how many dice you use for whatever? So how do I decide how many dice I use for command dice and chain of command? How many dice do we use from MG42? How many dice do we use for a Bren? Well, ultimately, it's the weapons is a bit of relativity. You know, the MG42's got to be more than the Bren, but the Bren's got to be more than a rifle, and how much more than a rifle has a Bren got to be? And it's no good looking at simply rounds per minute fired, because you've got to take into account how accurate those rounds are, because you can belt out an awful lot of rounds with an MG42, but you don't hit anybody with every single one of them. In fact, the majority of them are going to go sailing off into the blue. To a degree, I don't have a favourite single malt. I hate Scotch whisky. It's really designed for cleaning drains and windows. Favourite lager, Carlsberg. I love Carlsberg. I've spent more money on Carlsberg than I've spent on my house. So there we are. Back to the question. It's often a case of gut feel. So the number of command dice for chain of command, I always thought 5 would be about right, because 6 would probably give you one of every number, and that's too much, unless you are elite or whatever. So 5 seemed about right. 8 for MG42, 6 for Bren, whatever. 1 for a rifle. 1 for a rifle is the base point, the starting point. But the rest is suck it and see. There's so much in life. Jim, I cannot say your surname, but lovely to hear from you. No, I can't say it. Whatever became of Le Feu Sacré? Le Fax, any notion of refresh would kiss me hardy, right? Good questions, right? Le Feu Sacré was, I felt, a really, really fantastic set of Napoleonic big battle rules, designed core level action and up. The problem is that they had a revolutionary mechanism, which is something we never shy away from, which was to say, you as the commander of a corps, you're not interested whether your battalion is firing or attacking with the bayonet. You are instructing your brigades, attack on the left and take that village, or attack in the centre and cross the bridge. Whether units are firing with muskets or storming in with a bayonet is something that's down to the battalion commanders, or at least the brigade commanders. However, it was extraordinarily unpopular that you had the concept that you had an engage order where your troops were simply attacking, and they were either repulsed or they were successful, or you had a stalemate between the two. Because people liked at that point in time, because we are talking 10 years ago, to roll dice for firepower and then to make that decision. It's the classic wargamer thing where you want to command at every level. I want to be the Duke of Wellington, but I also want to be that squadron commander who says, right, I'm going to tap that plug into that gun piece and stop them firing. And that, of course, is not what our games are really about. Our games are really about trying to place you into the shoes of the commander at the level you're meant to be playing at. And so Le Feu Sacré were about as popular as the clap. What do you do? That's just the way we are. We are encouraged to, that's the way we've historically played games, and so that's the way we still want to play games. And it was a classic situation when we produced I Ain't Been Shot Man. A lot of people said, you can't do it like that because it's never been done like that. Well, no, it hadn't. And some rules can get away with it, and I Ain't Been Shot Man did, and Le Feu Sacré didn't. Very sad, really. What pisses you off the most, said Don Avis. To be honest with you, I'm too laid back these days. Nothing really pisses me off. Any chance of chain of command Vietnam? Is that already a thing? Says Cascadian. I think it already is a thing, but it's a fan-based thing. Probably not from me. Where's the cardie? I liked it. Oh God, I got it for Christmas. It's a bit Starsky and Hutch, and not in a good sense. So I took the fucking thing off very quickly. Richard Smith. I went to school with a boy called Richard Smith. He was a shit. Hopefully it's not you, Richard. Been wanting to get back into Napoleonic since rejoining the hobby after 25-year-old break, but only got 6mm. I know the feeling. Do you have anything written down about what I need to have a bash at sharp practice? No, but if you, I'm sure we've got some videos online. I mean, 50 figures. I mean, get yourself, I don't know what army you like, but let's say you like British. Get yourself 24 British redcoats, 12 green jackets, a redcoat officer, a redcoat sergeant, and a Richard Sharp figure. and you're done. That's it. You can go for it. Have you organised, Leslie said, have you organised the girls to bring you curry out to go? No, I haven't. I'm actually on a diet. So I ate at lunchtime and I'm not allowed to eat now. It's the L plan diet, which L for lager allows me to drink lager, but I just have to not eat food. It's a shame. Been looking, Anthony Holton. Hello, Anthony. Welcome on board. Not that we're on a ship, but been using some spare time to construct a map for the Scanian War. Do you know what, mate? I don't even know what that is. With the dawns and departures tiles, they are fabulous, aren't they? Jim is halfway through doing the ones for Southern Europe and Latin America, and they are going to knock your socks off. GM's alcove. Anything new within ECW in the buff? I'd love to do in the buff. I had so many problems. I think I've got hamsters living in this. It's getting so long. As long as it's not Annie's bloody guinea pigs, or worse. But I'd love to do in the buff. One of the issues, well, the big issue we had within the buff was the fact that the cavalry are bloody bonkers. And I actually think that working with the Ancients rules is giving me some insights into mechanisms that we might be able to use for the English Civil War. So live in hope, because I'm always in hope. I've got the armies. I mean, I'd love to get them on the table. Am I going to do Delilah? Why, Jeffrey? No. A while back, you mentioned Narvik, Norway. Will you revisit it as a pint-sized campaign and a book? Yeah, I'm working with a guy called Olv, who's Norwegian, and whose grandfather was in the Norwegian army at Narvik. And yeah, we're looking to do a Gotterdammerung supplement, which will cover, Vesterubrum supplement, which will cover Denmark and Norway. And that won't be a hard copy. It's just, going back to the question earlier about things that are financially viable and not, that ain't. And whilst Danish lunatics on motorcycles look very sexy, I mean, I'm not really sure of the replayability of it, although I have already devised a pint-sized campaign for it, which has not happened yet because we're going to put it in the supplement. So, yeah, I'm very keen to do that. There are some fabulous actions in Norway, particularly, that really suit a pint-sized campaign. For example, the German advance up the Gudbrandsdal. It is very linear. It's a ladder. So I'm very keen to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Slabbert in South Africa. Good night. Nice to hear from you over there. Looking forward to infamy in the Far East. Looking forward to getting them done too. Peter Weston in Vancouver. Hello, Peter. Several people in Vancouver. What are your favourite non-Lard rule sets? I don't play any, simply because it's been 20 years and I've just been banging away at doing what we do here. And to be honest with you, there aren't enough hours in the day to do what we do. I literally have not had a chance to play. I think the last non-Lardy rule set I played with any degree of continuity with Principles of War, and that is a long time ago. What happened to Hobbes's fantasy rules? Wait and see. Sword of the King. Well, we are still... The Welsh wizard apparently has his pot bubbling. And who knows what could emerge from the depths of that morass. But we'll keep the fingers crossed. I'd like to see that happen. I mean, the brief there was to keep it real, keep it historical, keep it not daft lunatic lizards and things like that. So we'll see where we go. Vesterubrum, yeah, it's good news, isn't it? Stefan Gustafsson, who I guess is a resident of that particular area. Since you're currently working on asymmetrical warfare, What about a pint-sized campaign for the Winter War? Well, Winter War was one of my favourite campaigns ever. I think it's tremendously interesting, and of course the roads are, the roads are defining the axis of advance. So it'd be really good for a pint-sized campaign. I completely agree. I mean, it's really interesting that the Winter War is one of those formative moments. I honestly believe that without the Winter War, that the Germans would have won in 1941 with Barbarossa, because the Winter War gave the Soviets pause for thought, and it's incredibly interesting to look at the way that war progressed. We all like to focus, or certainly I do, like to focus on the incredible success that the Finns had in terms of utterly destroying these evil communists come to take over their lands. I particularly don't like communists, and I particularly do like people who fight them. And consequently for me, that was a lovely part of the war. It's really good. But you have to take your hat off to the Soviets, because halfway through that campaign, they go, oh, blimey, we're getting this wrong. Not that they came from London, but no. And they stopped, and they used bunkers, the few bunkers that they had captured in the Mannerheim line, to reassess their tactics and work out new ones. And they stopped for a whole month, and then started the war again, at which point they began winning. I mean, and winning big, and ultimately you cannot avoid the fact that they won. But equally, you cannot avoid the fact that Mannerheim and the Finns did a spectacular job. So it's an incredibly important campaign in history, because after the Soviet army purges of the mid-1930s, I feel that the Winter War was the Soviets' opportunity, not necessarily to learn all the right lessons, but to learn that they had to learn lessons. And that is quite unique. I don't think the British army, for example, could have reacted in the same way, and I certainly don't believe the German army could have reacted in the same way, because they were still using tactics in 1945 that they've been using in 1917. So I don't think much of them, but there we go. Gareth Wallace, g'day! Love your series on the Jean Bleu Gap. Well, g'day to you, mate. And nice of you to join us. It would be nice to get the Jean Bleu Gap finished. We did record another one, and I've got it on memory sticks here, but I just installed some new brackets and to get the better camera angles. But unfortunately, the camera angle spent most of the time getting a view of the back of my head, because I hadn't really learned how to reposition myself slightly to the right. So I'm not really sure how that's going to work. In fact, I haven't even opened the bloody files yet. Hold on. Would I ever consider developing solo rules that would fit with the majority of Lally rules? Stuff along the lines of what Charlie was talking about on the Oddcast. Well, I am. Not as rules, but as an article, which I think I'm probably going to put on Lard Island News, because there's going to be lots of ideas there. And I was talking to, since then, a number of solo players have got in touch with me, and I've been talking to them about how they do it. And I've got a number of great ideas. I just really want to get it on the table, which is over there. But it's covered in shit at the moment, basically. Right, where we are. I'm ignoring that comment about bolt action because that was a good fun, best game of rugby I've ever played. Well, it wasn't, but I played many good games of rugby, but it was a great fun game of rugby, playing a game of bolt action with Jasper Orthuis in the Netherlands, which is really called Holland, but they don't like that. Right, Peter Weston. I worked at the same station as Dave Brown for a while. Really? What's that? Fox FM or something, was it? Right. Hello, Jesper, in the Netherlands. Just been talking about you. Right, Winter War's great. Continuation one Winter War will be cool to play in Chain of Command. It really would. Really would. Jeff Bond, in the absence of any performances Tom Jones' back catalogue. Which force do you most enjoy playing yourself the most in chain, sharp practice, etc.? I don't think I enjoy any the most. I do like playing Americans in Chain of Command because I really like the marching fire they have. I like their scouts teams. Sharp practice. I also like playing the Germans because I like Handgranaten, which suits my rather lunatic aggressive style of warfare. Sharp practice. American War of Independence. I really like playing Loyalists, just because I know they were right. No, I don't. I think it's nice to play different contrasting armies because they all have different styles and different subtleties. So, for example, with Infamy, I love the Roman drill, but equally I love the barbarian fervour. I love the British chariots, but equally I love the Gallic heavy noble cavalry. So I kind of think one of the joys of the hobby is that we're not playing with a chess set where I've got the white pieces and you've got the black pieces and they mirror each other and we get the same game every time. We get a huge amount of variety because we're playing a game where we have different rules, we have different figures, we have different armies, and that's one of the great pleasures of wargaming as a hobby, not just Lard stuff, but wargaming. Solo playing Chain of Command. Playing cock is keeping me sane at the moment. I hope you mean Chain of Command there, Dermot. I mean, you go blind, mate. Also toying with Operation Emerald using an Irish army based on the BEF with some World War I kit. Well, always interesting. I actually subscribe to the Irish Army. Well, a friend of mine subscribes to me for the Irish Army magazine, which is their version of Soldier magazine. I always enjoy it because there's always something tremendously interesting in there, far more so than Soldier magazine. Why not? I'm not really sure what Operation Emerald was. You'll have to not refresh my memory, tell me. Really enjoy gaming the Winter War. Right, it says Red Mist. Right. Developed from a bunch of Winter War rules, an article you posted a few years ago back in WSS. Blimey. I don't know if I write some shite, don't I? Anglo-Boer war rules. Well, we've done them, Jack. We've done them. And I don't think we'll ever go back to them again, to be honest, because they're so commercially non-viable. I mean, it's a fabulously interesting war, and one of the best things about the Anglo-Boer War is that is where the lessons were learnt that really made the British Army in 1914 as professional as they were. Do you have any ideas for playing Franco-Prussian War with sharp practice? Yes. If you're gonna do it right. No, that's a song. And if you're going to do it, I think some of the actions really, the skirmish actions to the south of Paris in 1871 are the most interesting. It's very difficult to look at. It's just a bit outside the spectrum of the technology that rules are designed to do. It's a very interesting and exciting period. It's one of my favourite periods, but I like the idea of Bavarians street fighting at the Battle of Sedan. But keep it on a relatively tight basis. I ain't been shot, Mum. Forgotten rules. Not really. Just published some stuff recently on the war in the West in 1940. Just published stuff on just published stuff on the war in Poland as a free download. But let's be honest, they are 19 years old, 18 years old, and at this moment in time, they're not top of my list. There we are. How does it feel to know that someone across the world at any given moment is probably playing one of your lardy sets of rules? A bit odd, really. I might be fabulous, but a bit odd because just odd, really. My kids once said to me when they were a bit younger, "Dad, you're a celebrity." And my wife said, being a celebrity wargamer is about as good as being famous for exposing yourself in the park. And who knows whether she's right or wrong. I certainly just think of myself as another wargamer, and the people I like gaming with are just my mates. I find it very odd that people are playing our games right the way across the world, is the honest answer, and I find it very flattering. But the good thing is that they are, which 20 years ago when we started publishing rules, the majority of the feedback was that we were completely bloody mental and should be put in a high security lunatic asylum. So I guess it's an advance on where it was then. Right. All right. Okay. I did release them. They're out. The rules of the Boer War are out in one of the specials. So go and have a look for that. I'm not going to use the word hairy back, but there we go. How does it feel to know that someone... Oh, right, I've done that one. Just looked at Operation Emerald. US contingency plan for the invasion of Ireland. That's Americans for you. We would never have done that. We're far too kind. Oh, no, we had done it. Are there any sharp practice lists for the War of Spanish Succession? No. Are you missing Sid? Well, I'm missing social contact with people other than the 3 lunatic females I've got in my house who are watching the worst rubbish I've ever seen in my life. Gemma Collins? Who watches this? But, yeah. Lard magazine 2020 coming soon. I've not even thought about it. It's not a bad idea, actually, is it? We could do it early. Will Byrne in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm a huge fan of Chain of Command. Someone is certainly playing your rules and enjoying them greatly. Well, thanks. Thanks, Will. It's what I find really positive is the fact that we've got a great community of people across the world who are encouraged by sharing the same set of rules to make friends across the globe. And I think at this point in time, that is an incredibly important thing, that we know that actually we're not just looking at the same 4 walls and 3 lunatic females watching Gemma Collins, but we do have people out there who we can talk to and interact with. And I think for many of us that could be the thing that maintains our sanity for those of us who hadn't in the first place. When will I be playing spoons? Never, actually. I've never ever really understood how people play the spoons. My wife's a Cockney, maybe she knows. I will ask her, but not at this moment in time. She's not actually a Cockney, she's from London, but no, that's bad enough. What does your wife think of the whole wargaming thing? My wife loathes wargaming. She loathes it with a vengeance. She thinks it is not because she dislikes the hobby, but because I've got so much rubbish strewn over the whole house. So at the moment in the kitchen, we've got a big loads of newspaper down with a load of stuff painted dog poo brown. So her objection to it is that it makes a mess. And it does. But largely because I'm not very tiny. Jim says there was a notion at the heart of Sharp Practice 1 you could scale up to big games representing period manoeuvre. Do you think you pitched that over the side? No, I don't actually. I think that's really, really important. Now, one of the things that I do think you could very easily do, although not that easily because I've tried it, but I think you could do, is create a bigger battle game using the mechanics of Sharp Practice where one base was one figure. So let's say you had a unit of 8 figures, was 8 bases of 3, 2 figures, 4, whatever. So no, I don't think we tipped it over the side, but I think we recognised the fact that you can't try and be all things to all people at the same time. So Sharp Practice is very much a skirmish game, but there are mechanisms within there that you could very easily use, I think. What are your chances of getting your family to play What a Tanker Like Nick? 0, absolutely 0. My family will not even play Monopoly or backgammon. They are too busy watching Gemma Collins' Celebrity Diva on lockdown. Are you guys delivering currently? Not personally, but yeah, we are posting. Yeah. Going to bite the bucket. My God, bite that bucket. My God, that sounds fair enough. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are posting, and I am going to the post office at the moment 3 times a week. Heavily swathed in swaddling clothes or whatever. There are many dramatic moments of the period, infamy. How did you go through the process of trying to capture these moments onto the gaming table, turning personal accounts into a war game? Well, that's a really good question, actually, because what we tried to do, and I'm not going to be able to go on for much longer, actually, because I really need a wee. What we tried to do is use accounts from people like Josephus, who obviously his accounts are more first-hand than probably most people, and certainly more than Tacitus. And Caesar's a bit dodgy, but nevertheless, he was there and did see it. So we've attempted to take inspiration predominantly from historical accounts and then use things like archaeology to back that up. So one of the things that we've done in there, for example, Caesar relates a story of how his legionaries were hesitating from going onto the beach when they came to Britain initially, but they had a standard bearer leap into the water and go forward, and the men followed in order to protect their standard, which had almost quasi-religious value to them. So we have a valiant Vexillarius in the rules, who is a character that can join your retinue, because ordinary standard bearers are ordinary, but as you go through the campaign process, you will get people to join your retinue, one of whom is a valiant Vexillarius, and one of his abilities is to hurl his standard into the enemy. That was good, wasn't it? Blimey. 3D TV. Or he can act as a rallying point for your force. So we've attempted to take some of that flavour and introduce that into the rules. Not just attempted, we've done it. Peter Mennett said, I got my wife to play a game with me once, but she went a sort of grey colour, so didn't ask. Well, there you go. Sometimes those nurses' uniforms are useful. What are the favourite rules you've written and why? Oh, that's from Don. And how will infamy compare? Well, at the moment, I'm utterly in love with infamy because you have to be. You can't write a set of rules unless you're passionate about them. Somebody asked me earlier on today, what do you think are the most important rules you've ever written? Not sure any of them are important, really. Important is paying the mortgage and keeping the wife happy. I do think that Chain of Command was something of a landmark watershed moment, if you like. I don't know. I think, potentially the patrol phase in that was something that people hadn't seen before. I equally think that within Infamy, we've got another patrol phase, not patrol phase at all, but another initial setup phase that would equate to it. That is quite unique. I think really, if I'm making any contribution that's important, it's to try and introduce new ideas that make people think. Whether they do or not is up to them, of course. I mean, a lot of people think I'm shite, so that's entirely up to them. I'm not bothered. Where's the beer? Said wee diggy trail. There's the beer, laddie. Dermot Sweeney, get your trousers on. You're nicked. All right. Plan to put Hitler to invade on a stepping stone to Britain. Operation. Well, it sounds a good one, Dermot. It does sound a good one. Whereabouts? You're down in the Free State, I take it. Whereabouts are you, Dermot? You could be defending the beach. You could fight them on the beaches, but in a slightly different manner. Someone said, what a tanker evolved from a naval game. What happened to that idea? We threw it away because naval gamers got very upset when we presented it to them because they said, we really would like the hull points to be 100 points. And so we said, right, well, I don't think we want to go there. I developed a set of rules that I really, really was enthusiastic about, which were called Hello Sailor, which ridiculous title, but it was like most things, a working title. And the idea was that the information for you as the player, you were the captain on the bridge, and the information you would get would be, or at least the admiral or the flag officer commanding the flotilla, the information that you would get would be the information you get historically. So you wouldn't say I've lost 14 points of my hull damage. You say Exeter is listing 5 degrees to port, which I thought, wow, that's really good. That's great because it's putting you in the position of the person who was there. And a lot of naval gamers said, we really want to play test this, but they didn't really want to play test it. They wanted to play test the game that they had played before. And so I thought, I really can't be bothered because it's like trying to convert people who are unconvertible, whatever that would be. Do you regret not having a son? No, not in the not in the slightest. I've got 2 daughters who I love to bits. If I had a son, I would want him to I'd want to live through him vicariously. I'd want him to do the things that I singularly failed to do, and I wouldn't want that. That would be entirely unfair. So no, I'm extraordinarily glad to have 2 daughters who are great friends, and that's that. Right. Any word on O Group? Well, lockdown, but it's actually being laid out at the moment. So yeah, that's probably ahead of the curve. Any interest in what if conflicts? Not really. I tend to find that there's enough real conflicts out there that inspire me. Sometimes I wouldn't mind a dabble in a bit of very low-level sci-fi, but only as an exercise. I developed a world where, for a set of science fiction rules, where you had a planet which was a mining planet, a planet that was in about 200 years' time, where mankind had gone off into the beyond the stars, thanks to developing, super fast transport. And the idea was it was a colony, and there were 3 powers on Earth, one of which was effectively Western, one of which was effectively communist, and I think the others were Jehovah's Witnesses or something. I can't remember. I liked the idea of having the lights not quite going off, but contact with Earth disappearing. And then what were effectively the security units of these mining colonies then having to become the military, because contact with Earth had gone for whatever reason, and there weren't enough resources on the planet for people to all survive. And I liked the idea of conflict that created, and it was an opportunity to see how people reacted and what would happen and what ideas would come out of that. But to be honest with you, I felt it would be a lot better in a sort of Kriegspiel, almost role-playing environment, rather than tabletop figure games. So no. Do I regret not having a son? Again, I'm coming back to that. No, just kind of no. Sci-fi games. Judge Dredd, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Tamsin, yeah, this is probably just what I've just told you about. I like that. I got a chance to see Len's Terrain Rules Pacific, as shown in 2017. Do you think he was a bit overboard with the terrain types, or was it just enough? Daring Dave, I think you will find those rules have changed significantly. And of course, in 2017, we were going through the very initial stages of the playtest process. So I don't think you'd actually recognise them. Pro streamers have a bucket and hose. Well, I can tell you a funny story about that, but I'm not going to, and I don't have one here. Thank you from the Seattle area in the USA. Well, thank you, Eric. Apparently, you make the best coffee over there. Can't read the word. Sorry for joining late. That's fine. Okay, we weren't meant to be here, to be honest with you. Nick Skinner. What are you doing on my Friday night telly? I was expecting Ian Hislop. Well, I don't know. I wasn't expecting to be here at all. Candy Apple says, hi, honey, you are cute. Candy, you have no idea how much. Jonathan Witt, looking forward to Infamy. Thanks for the tip on making the slingers. Well, Pearl's a slinger. They're dead easy. If you're ever going to convert stuff, that's the place to begin. Jeff Bond, I'm keeping in touch with the Welsh and Forest gamers on WhatsApp. Hobbsy, Matt Slade, etc. Just mentioned you were on YouTube. Ralph asked if you were doing Delilah. I think it's a thing now. I'm not sure where this comes from. The idea that I'm a modern day Tom Jones is a bit worrying. Right. Great evening, Rich. Thanks for that. I'm actually going to wind up now. Is fighting season officially dead, or is a release still possible? I don't know, is the honest answer to that. I don't know. If I ever were going to go down that route, those rules were so close to being ready. Just so many circumstances conspired to stop it happening. And I think I need to put a bit of time between then and now. I do not a lot. I do work with the British Army, and I've had conversations with a lot of guys, and I just think there needs to be a little bit of time. Right. Is Linda here? I don't know if she is, no doubt. She'll be thumbing down. Does the carpet match the curtains? Well, who knows, Candy? There's a question. Let me spin that back to you. Thanks for enjoying around. Thanks, Rich. It's a real pleasure. Right. Well, what comes first, the pun or the set of rules? The set of rules, definitely. But only the idea. And then what we tend to do is we develop a working title that is just a laugh. So, for example, when we did Dutch Britannia, the working title was Beerwolf, as in beer, as opposed to beer. The game has to come first, but then we normally drop the silly title, apart from with Infamy, where apparently we've kept it due to popular demand. Ever visit another gaming shows up north? Are there any? Vat and Attack? Done Vat and Attack. We never put on a game there. Northwest of England, which is where I originally come from, singularly doesn't buy any of the rules I ever produce. So I'm never really bothered going there. But no, ChillCon, I just don't even know what that is. Oh, Graham, you showed up and it's ending. I know the feeling, mate. Right, good. Okay, well, I think that's it, because you don't want to see me physically burst. And maybe I won't. Well, thank you for joining us. I think the idea wasn't to do anything, but it was kind of that let's do the show right here and now and see what worked. I think it would be a good idea to actually get a bit more structure to this when we do the next one and think about what we're going to do. I mean, I'm quite happy to sit here and blather on, but it might be an idea to do something that's a bit more focused on something. But maybe it would be a good idea if you guys and girls put some comments on Twitter or Facebook or whatever and said, that was bloody awful. Next time, can we do it better by doing this? And in that case, we can get some preparation and maybe take some questions in advance and maybe not have drunk quite so much before we start, although that's never guaranteed. Okay, that's it for me. Candy Apple, let's play croquet. Well, it's been a joy to have you come along and join us, Candy. I hope your evening is going to be as pleasurable as it has been, although I think you're probably missing out after I've gone. Definitely drink, probably right. Nice to see you, Tamzin. Look forward to seeing you in the flesh in one of the shows next year. Right, I'm going to have to go and let my dog in because he's outside the window getting upset. But top scenes, nice to see you all. And let's try and make this happen again because it's quite viable. And if we can get a really wide screen thing, maybe my colleague Fat Nicholas could join us.